nasty. I know this is overkill, but I thought it might be really amazing to have, us reverberate throughout the space and to assert our nastiness. My name is Elizabeth Peterson, Elizabeth Nasty Peterson, and I'm the director of the museum here. I'm also a dyke, I'm also a mama, I'm also an adjunct professor, and I've been out 32 years now, woohoo, for nastiness. But we're here for all sorts of women, for all kinds of women throughout the country, and Julie is going to talk to you a little bit more about that. I want to do a shameless plug for the museum and just tell you we have lots of spring events, and some are related to literature and some are related to the Georgia Watercolor Show, and we have many, many different things happening. I want to thank all the people involved. So Julie Blumke, who's now my BFF, and an amazing writer. There are 3 writers who are in this anthology who are here tonight, who are going to read, and others who are going to read who are also writers. So Julie, Karen Head, who's class of '98, Oglethorpe, and also a museum advisory board member and an amazing human. She's going to talk to you in just a moment too. And J.C. Riley, who I've just met, who's another writer who's in the anthology. And then Shalonda Cash, who did an incredible job, who's a senior about to graduate. Getting her resume out there. Yay! Anjali Anjeti, who I also just met, who's a writer and who's going to read tonight. And Jessica Handler, who is frequently mistaken for me, and I think she likes it. Because we have a similar awesome look about ourselves. I don't know what it is. And also Karis Books is a feminist bookstore. It's here, it's amazing. So thanks to Patrice Boone for coming tonight and selling. I heard a wonderful thing on NPR recently that as the big box stores disappear, the independent bookstores are rising again. So on that note, let me hand this over to Karen Head to talk to you for a moment. And I don't know if you want this, it's overkill, but it's overkill.
I don't know, ooh, wow, it really is.
It's totally nuts, right?
It's even more so if you're standing right in front of it.
I know, exactly.
No, my first name ain't Baby. Some of you actually got that Janet Jackson reference, and some of you are too young. So Elizabeth just wanted me to talk just for a moment about the museum and why I had suggested originally sort of doing this particular event here. I just thought that this was the perfect space. I think that the Oglethorpe Museum is one of those long-held secrets in this town, and it doesn't need to be a secret anymore. The exhibits that come through here are amazing and important. It's a fantastic space to have these kinds of events in. There's free parking, which is another big bonus in Atlanta these days. But part of the reason that this particular space is very special to me is that I was a non-traditional student, and I was a commuter student, and I didn't have any place to be when classes weren't going on, if I was between classes. And I used to just come up and hang out here in the museum long ago when I was a student. And so much so that people thought I worked here. And but it was my kind of safe haven place to be and to hang out, and so it's always been a very, very special sort of safe space. And I thought that also lent itself really nicely to this particular reading, because this book is very much dealing with the marginalized voices and giving rise to those voices. And that's super important. Now, I should also tell you that Grace Bauer and Julie Kane, who I really would have loved to have had be here today, are 2 extraordinary poets. If you have not read their work, you should. Julie Kane's actually the former Poet Laureate of Louisiana, a National Book Award winner, a terrific formalist writer. And those are hard to come by, doing it really well. And Grace Bauer has been dealing with women's issues and women's voices for a very long time, all the way back to her early chapbook, The Women in the Well, and all the way through. And she also was on both the graduate committees of mine and J.C. Riley, so part of what got us through grad school. It's part of this larger sisterhood, and I think that that's important. These readings have been happening all around the country, and this book has been selling out every press. They can't actually keep up. We weren't sure we were going to have them here tonight, so you don't have a copy, do try to get a copy, and I hope that you really enjoy all the nastiness tonight. So, Julie?
Try that name.
Do.
Is that better?
Check. It's still pretty.
How's that? How's that? Is that better?
Let's see.
No, I got nothing. How's that? Speak.
Hello.
That's a little better.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm really not a techie.
Oh, I see what you mean.
Your daughter will
especially
know.
when you, yes, especially when you're right behind you. Thank you so much, all of you, for being here. So it is time to get nasty. I first want to start off by thanking Elizabeth Peterson, who just the moment I met her was absolutely fantastic and so excited about putting all of this together. And there's nothing more wonderful than people that get excited about poetry readings and excited about nasty poetry readings. And thank you to Karen, thank you to Oglethorpe, and thank you to each one of you for being here tonight. I know it's a lot to come through Atlanta traffic and devote your time to a poetry reading, so we really appreciate you being here. And I do want to say, give a special shout out to the men in the audience, because I think it's really fantastic that men are here supporting women's voices. So cheers to the men. I can't clap. And what better way to dismantle patriarchy, right, than to have men as support. I also would like to say thank you to Grace and Julie, who turned this anthology around in record lightning fire time. I will not go into all of the details that are listed in the introduction, but when you get a copy of the book, you can take a look and see just what they put together and what passion and diligence and persistence put into the world. And it gives me chills to think that they were able to do this in such a short period of time. Okay. So, I am going to start off by talking a little bit about the temperament of the poems that are in this anthology, because I think it's important for you to understand sort of what the whole impetus was behind putting this together. And of course, those words are not mine. Those words belong to Julie and Grace, so I'm going to read just a short bit of the introduction to you. So many of you will remember, of course, the debate between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, when Donald Trump looked at Hillary Clinton and said, "Such a nasty woman." And this was their response. The epithet applied not just to his opponent on stage, but to any woman who had the audacity to stand up to him, contradict him, call him out in any way. Any woman who was not subservient, who refused to act like a pussy waiting to be grabbed, a model wife, or a Playboy bunny ready to serve, or a porn star. You may have taken it personally, or maybe you thought of your friends, mothers, daughters, wives, partners, sisters. Even if you were not a Hillary fan, you may have felt like a line had been crossed. So you were not surprised when the phrase quickly became a meme, a Twitter hashtag, a t-shirt women wore with defiant pride, commonly recognized shorthand for a critique of the sexism the insult embodied. The phrase stuck in our heads as well as our craws. As poets, we have always believed that writing well is the best revenge. We respond to language with language, our way of fighting fire with a brighter flame. So while we struggled to articulate our own responses, we had no doubt that other women poets were doing the same. What might happen if we asked to hear from them? And so the idea for this anthology was born. Our original call for poems read, "Now is the time for all nasty women poets to come to the aid of their country. We are seeking poems from women who proudly celebrate their own nastiness and that, of other women who have served as nasty role models. We want poems by and about women defying limitations and ladylike expectations, women refusing to be nice girls, women embracing their inner bitch when the situation demands it, women being formidable and funny, women speaking to power and singing for the good of their souls, women being strong, sexy, strident, super smart, and stupendous. Women who want to encourage little girls to keep dreaming. If you are a woman who refuses to submit, we want to read your submission. And as Elizabeth said, as Karen said too, women from all over the country submitted to this anthology, and there were 5 women poets chosen in the state of Georgia. And that's J.C. Riley, Karen Head, Alice Fryman, Marilyn Callett, and me. So it's a great honor to be here. And when Elizabeth and I first talked about this, we said, yes, we want to read the poems by the Georgia poets, but how can we reach out farther? What else can we do? And so we started talking about other voices that we could bring in. And we wanted to bring in other writers, other activists, other women that stood up for other women. And so we have Jessica Handler, Anjali Entergy, and Shalonda Cash. So I am going to kick off the reading, and it is my great pleasure to start with the poem written by one of our older women poets in Georgia. It's really hard to navigate book and mic. Can you hear me okay when I do that? All right. This is a poem by Alice Fryman, and you'll see I have my book marked for what I'm reading, and I love it because her initials are AF. So, and the reason Alice is not here tonight, I think she's 85. Does anybody know exactly?
She's up there.
Yeah, she's up there. It's because she's off in Florida doing a reading. She already had that booked when I talked to her. However, she had computer problems, and so she asked her husband to email and say, on behalf of her, good luck tonight, that she was thinking about all of us, which I thought was fantastic. So this is Alice Fryman, and I'm going to tell you a quick story about meeting her because it's perfectly nasty and perfectly wonderful. I met Alice at Decatur Book Festival when I was 37 years old. And when I met her, for some reason, Rupert Fike introduced me to her. I said, I'm almost 40 when I met her. And she looked at me with a sly look and she goes, honey, when I was in my 40s, you couldn't hold me down. And I thought, we're going to be friends. And so we have. And every few months we get together for lunch. And so she reminds me all of the time to be bold and to be loud and to be true. So this is Alice Fryman's poem, The Poet. He was the right words in the right order on demand, the hot blab of the poetry circuit. So we promised him dinner, publicity, and a powerful pull at the punch bowl. We would have thrown in Italy, rumba lessons, bought him exclusive, elusive martyr rights if only he'd come, read his poems for our little group, disciplined in nothing but Midwest adoration. He was a name. What sneer hadn't he perfected? The arched eyebrow, the purple scarf, the right of the rake's progress through the field of ingenues swaying before him. Children of the corn facing the blades of the combine. Over dinner, we talked poetry, influences, whom he read. His short list of favorites, he and himself. As if Yeats never put a pen to paper, Shakespeare wasn't Shakespeare, and poor Keats never hatched a poor nightingale. Frost, Neruda, Rilke, forget it. No women, we asked? Sappho, Dickinson, Levertov? He choked on his fish. Reader, lest I sound out of joint, I offer up only what memory shakes out. And if memory shakes out bitter, be assured it remains clear-eyed. He diddled his fork, wiped his mouth, then surveying the table and not finding what he was looking for, looked down as if conferring with his plate. Where's the woman? No, not a Barrett to banter with his Browning, alter ego and companion, but a gate of female flesh swung open, wide and generous. A paltry wage for genius, yes, but what can be expected from volunteer work done flat on the back and provided? Sing, O Muse, the cockiness of the Y chromosome, sole proprietor of the poetry gene, that itch, that flea strutting to the podium to be born. He read from his quote-unquote work in progress, shuffling, dropping papers, attending diligently to the fuss of his scarf. And I wish for art and the poetry we kept dangled before us, glittery as the fruit of Tantalus because we wanted it so bad. I wish I could rewrite this story, saying no one nodded off or walked out, saying the big man's poems were enough to fly us beyond judgment's orbit to where the real stars burn. Their work, more than bright enough to render the least of them forgivable. I wish I could tell you that. And this is the poem that I submitted. It's called Scar Season. As a girl, I wanted one. Simple, uninterrupted, those zags of tell and hide, injury, surgery, the open and closed mouth of them all at once. After my friend fell from her bike, she had lines tied into her chin, little shocks of thread that poked their spikes when I touched them. I did not think about the blood, the needles, how she wailed at the split, how my hands covered the gap as I stumbled her home. All I saw was the glare of accident on her skin, the remarkable way they fixed her, how her voice stayed together when she smiled, screamed. I told no one why I raced my Schwinn down Dead Man's Hill, why I jumped from the dare tree, roller skated into the ravine. I grew lonely over the bruises and scrapes, the adornments that healed and disappeared, the betrayal of Band-Aids. Then, chickenpox. The threat of my body tied to itch. My mother photographing my marked back, stunned at the terrific colonies of red. Don't, everyone said when I touched them. You will scar. And I thought of the bike, the falls, the skates sitting barren. And all I had to do was release, lift the scab each time it formed until finally on my ankle, a round crater, a universe to claim, the scar without the accident, the mark without the wound, how I was simply given what I tried so hard to create. Yes, and I meant to say in my introduction that obviously these are nasty poems, so there will be poems about assault and rape and violence, so I'm saying this to serve as a trigger and content warning for any of you that might not be expecting that. I'm also going to read Jan Beatty's poem, Shooter. And after the Me Too movement, this poem had a special significance. Shooter. I shoot the old man who followed my 11-year-old body on Smithfield Street because I smiled at him, because it was Christmas, I shoot the man who jacked off on the bricks of our house, put a ladder to my window when I was 12. I shoot the professor who said my work was illogical, then used me for publicity when I won an award. The businessman who wanted to talk about my teenage breasts. I'm loading and reloading. The guy who walked up to me when I was a cashier and asked about my hole. I hope you will still like me when I say the gynecologist stuck his tongue down my throat when I was 16, the writer who read his gang rape poem to a room of women students. I'm putting my finger on the problem. The men who pose as feminists, the predators, the rapists, the bullies and thugs among us, my uncle who tried to kiss me when he was drunk, my 60-year-old neighbor who grabbed me when my parents weren't home. It was my fault. A man named Roy who wouldn't stop when I said no. He said, shut up. He said, now. He taught me to love the trigger. I'm shooting the cook who grabbed me from behind in the restaurant kitchen, the famous poet who said there are no great women writers, the boyfriend who left his handprint in black and blue, the men who say we're too serious, prettier when we smile. I'm smiling and shooting the shrink who tried to lock me up, the boss who gave me a ride home, wanted a blowjob, pushed my head down, the poet who said I didn't praise him enough. Here's one for you. The restaurant manager who told me to grow a thicker skin and wear a skimpy uniform, because really, we have an attitude. We need to lighten up. I shoot all the men I've lopped off the list, so I don't have to worry my pretty little head about it. And with that, I call up J.C. Riley.
This is Emily Rose Cole's poem, Lita Leaves Manhattan. 3 days after it happened, I grab a Greyhound going west. All I have, a duffel stuffed with socks, t-shirts, old paints, a coffee-stained photo of my mother, a little cash. I spark Marlboro menthols in the lavatory, spit smoke into the no-flush toilet. Stench curls and thickens, fluorescent buzz overhead. The floor lurches beneath my feet. Nothing is steady anymore. The door clicks shut. I slump back to my window seat. I need to be landlocked, waterless. I have friends in Kansas City. I'll crash on couches, find some doctor to take care of me, if it comes to that. I'll pursue a new hobby, take a shotgun to the edge of the lake, and shoot at every shadow of wings. It is.
Give it a hold for you.
No. There's some language in this one. We can all deal with that. This is Allison Stone's Twat Guzzle. Lover, tell me what you see down there. I tried to look. It's hairy down there. Jewel of many names. Lotus Garden. Nappy Dugout. Muff. Yoni. Down there. Long legs, slim hips, but Barbie's missing something. Just a plastic V down there. Men's nightmare feature teeth and razor blades, a cache of weaponry down there. Thick books help frustrated women teach their men how to solve the mystery down there. If a date cooks dinner, he'll expect to dive into the sweet, deep sea down there. Slick magazines are full of vulvas and advice. Don't smell fishy down there. Kick him to the curb if he forgets your birthday or is lazy down there. Science says men aren't creeps. Nature makes them seek variety down there. Forget my washboard abs and Mensa mind. You'll find the best of me down there. You'll be my true love when you say, Allison, I'll spend eternity down there. Oh, sorry. This is my poem. Fat girls get groped too in public places. On a northbound MARTA train, where I lean on a pole by the door, a man's hand slips around me and cups my breast, testing its fullness a moment, his finger teasing for my nipple's response. Rigid. A gasp like winter in my throat, I shrink from him, but there is no space to step away in the crowded car, and I cannot make myself smaller. The train slows, enters 5 points. What if I get off at the stop just to breathe? What if he follows me? The voices of 1,000 women caution, stay here, stay visible, stay safe as you can. The doors close, the train pulls away, picks up speed, and he is too close, like sulfur and sweat. I tell myself, maybe it was an accident. Maybe he didn't know what he was doing. Maybe I imagined it. The voices of 1,000 women whisper, you know what you felt. You know what he did. You mustn't, you can't react. The train jolts. He crushes against me, panic, metallic, mine, sparks like the third rail, breath, feral and chitinous prickles at my neck. I know what he's thinking. You are fat. No one would believe you if you said anything. Nobody wants a fat woman. I can get away with this. No world is safe with men like him. In his eyes, like all women, I've no right to myself. A thing to be sullied, silenced. You must not escalate the situation, the voices of 1,000 women urge. Do nothing. He could kill you. 4 stops later, Midtown. Passengers throng the doors. His hand clamps on my breast again. He takes what he wants. If I do nothing, if I let the shame twist at me or tight, if I do nothing. I use the train's sudden lurch to ram my elbow into his chest, stomp his foot for good measure. The train's momentum mine. He grunts with the impact. I say, oh, sorry. Didn't mean to bump you. I turn and face him, the cockroach in a black suit. He mumbles, fuck you, fat bitch, and scuttles off at Lindbergh. The doors close. The voices of 1,000 women well up and sing. Thank you, I appreciate that. And now, Karen Head.
So I mentioned the sisterhood, and I think it's a very real thing. Call it a girls' club, call it whatever you want. But I believe in lineages. And I'm sort of happy that it seems I'm beginning to be sort of in the middle ground of some of that when I glance through a book like this and I realize how many names I know and how many names have influenced me. And And then the younger writers who are coming up behind me and being even braver than my generation. And so I wanted to read a handful of small poems actually by the people who are part of my lineage. So I'm going to start first with Hilda Raz and her poem Women's Lib. Hilda was my dissertation director and the longtime editor of Prairie Schooner. Women's Lib. Women turned their loyalties from their father's clothes, huge discarded shirts. They had been missing. All night dreaming the map of the future, their subject had been the artist at work in a room under the stable. It is vital to pull yourself up by your own roots. We are making love in the weeds, slamming the dahlias flat, milkweed swollen, then bursting, outside birds. Mostly the television is on, but we didn't notice. We went to the movies. Someone in the back row touched my arm. Let them eat cake. And then I got angry. Feathery trees embroidered on bastis, old clothes in a poetic mode passed out of fashion. Blessed be the womb, put to use or not. Now dance. And in a different kind of lineage, a couple of years ago, Dan Beach asked me to take over the Atlanta Review, and probably one of the poets who has influenced me the most was one of the founding members of that editorial team and is one of the most famous poets and translators in the world. Her Atlanta home folks know her as Alicia, the rest of the world know her as A.E. Stallings. For Atalanta. Your name is long and difficult, I know. So many people whom we didn't ask have told us so and taken us to task. You too, perhaps, will wonder as you grow and blame us with the venom of 13 for ruining your life, using our own love against us, keen as a double-bladed knife. Already, I can picture the whole scene. How will we answer you? Yes, you were in a hurry to arrive, as if it were a race to be alive. We waited the syllables, and they rang true, and we were hoping, too, you'd come to like the stories of princesses who weren't set on shelves like china figurines. Not allegories, but girls whose glories included rescuing themselves, slaying their own monsters, running free but not running away. It might be rough, singled out for singularity, tough. Beauty will be of some help, you'll see. But it is not enough to be nimble, brave, or fleet. Oh, apple of my eye, the world will drop many gilded baubles at your feet to break your stride. Don't look down, don't stoop, to scoop them up. Don't stop. And my last poem of lineage is actually the Marilyn Callett poem. I'm sorry that Marilyn couldn't be here. But speaking of lineages, she is going to be here on the 30th, and shameless plug for yet another reading, at Karis at the end of the month, the 30th. Marilyn will be reading with me and my current student, Sarah Oso, who's sitting in the back, looking embarrassed. Detached. Pele's sister Capo possessed a detachable vagina, unlike us. We can't distract wild boars by flinging decoys. In high school, though, I dated a guy with ADD, bristles, and pig eyes. Unlike ours, Capo's twat was detachable. She could fling it like a frisbee. Kamapoo's the pig-eye god never caught on. I dated a guy like that, dumb, bristles on his back. One day, he was buying me a charm bracelet. The next, snorting, boring, pig-eyed, and dirty. I'm not saying he was a gigantic eight-eyed hog like Kamapoopa, but those black bristles down his back, mood swings, and his rooting around my pants marked him. At Southside High, boys grunted like wild boars. Lucky Capo Unlike us, she possessed a detachable vagina. And finally, I'll leave you with my poem. One thing that you might need a reference for in this poem is it references the great Gwendolyn Brooks and her poem, The Lovers of the Poor, which is about the church women who want to help the poor, but they only want to help the right kind of poor, the clean, tidy poor. It was also written based on a passing experience I had on the way to JC's wedding. The other side of the tracks. What if I chucked it all, began calling myself Candy with a heart over the eye, stopped in at Walmart to buy a jeans skirt, a tank top, and a can of Aquanet, hitchhiked to a small town just outside Birmingham, Alabama, taking on a part-time waitress gig, mornings at the Waffle House, evenings spent hot smoking and fucking anyone who could pay enough just to make ends meet. Dealt a little meth near train crossings from a junker with a hood that would pop up whenever I gunned the engine or drove over 45. Until the day came when I saw a Laura Ashley knockoff jumper hanging out of the Salvation Army bin and felt the spirit move me. Took to preaching from the self-serve pumps at the Shell station that sells trucker porn, answered to any biblical name, believing, like proper church matrons, that I was somehow more redeemable, worth $1's charity, when before they couldn't even be bothered to leave me a tip when I served them coffee.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about vaginas, too. This is great. Lots of vaginas this evening. This is a poem by Estela Gonzalez. It's called Vaginas on the Loose. Good to know that people are still afraid of wild vaginas, especially young, hairy ones. The kind that aren't splayed open like those sharks hung from grappling hooks, fat fishermen beside them, smiling. Porno pimps like them tame, shaved, pinned open by manicured fingernails with long, hot pink acrylic nails, just like Jesus. They like them crucified with a big, hairy cock or a dildo nailing them down. An old vagina on the loose. Gray hairs blowing in the wind, wrinkled lips roaring. Not as slick as the young ones, but still toothy, still waiting. Lying in the sun, teeth glowing, roaring, hungry. They will eat you if you let them. This is changing the pace a bit. This is a poem by Jinjin Zhu. It's called The Tractor. In a tractor, he came for her. She waited. The lone passenger, the engine broke through the air from behind the horizon. Its steady breath closed in, plowed the earth to her ear. In an oversized blue suit, he came for her. Cotton dress, purse clutched to her chest, hair swept up by an oxbone clip. Her wedding, an imagined spectacle. Slurred vows, foreheads banging against ground to fathers and uncles and grandfathers and the dead. A drunken game to steal the bride. Here she stole onto a train, no goodbyes. She stepped on and stepped off onto the platform of dirt and dust. The engine. She listened, waiting for a life outside the choke of mosquito netting, the blank walls of her room. One by one, her sisters had left. Where was there to hide? Last daughter of the house. With a dead mother, a daughter is a body with a price. In a tractor, he came for her. She listened, a seashell to her ear. And the last poem I'm reading is by a woman named Nordette N. Adams. It's called Digital Anthropologists Find Our Hashtags. Dear hashtag Alton Sterling, your face reminds me of my brother, my son, my older cousin, Van, my first boyfriend, the only one who ever asked me to a dance. No golden grill, but he was still kind. Hashtag this again. At POTUS Facebook today, these fatal shootings are not isolated. Retweet. Hashtag Baton Rouge. Retweet. Hashtag Falcon Heights. Dear hashtag Philandro Castillo. After 4 gunshots, your girlfriend asked, "Where is my daughter? Where is my daughter?" While recording, keep your hands up. Hashtag for a busted taillight, like hashtag Walter L. Scott. Hashtag this again. Facebook. I wish Obama was a magic Negro. In his last 6 months, he could wave his wand and hashtag make it stop. At Black Twitter Guru, Drake is awake. He is concerned now about his own family even. Hashtag we see you, bro. Dear hashtag Alton Sterling, I am sorry I haven't done enough. Don't want to hear more stories, can't remember all the names. Twitter. Advice for allies. If you want to help, do. And do not ask a black person how to fix white supremacists or these murders. Dear hashtag Trayvon Martin. At BBC is tweeting Beyonce today. We are sick and tired. They report that a black woman protesting at the mic in Baton Rouge asked, "How many of you really wish you were white?" They said, "Remarkable." At Randomly Comfortable, say no to trial by media. No to black paranoia. Hashtag be colorblind. Wait for the facts. For the facts. Dear hashtag Jordan Davis. Today is like dear hashtag Jonathan Farrell. I have a quote. Dear hashtag Michael Brown. What happened? Dear hashtag Tamir Rice. You were so young. And dear hashtag Sandra Bland. If only the cop. Dear hashtag Mother Emanuel AME. I will remember dear hashtag Namali Henry and hashtag Freddie Gray. I believe that it, dear hashtag I can't breathe, aka hashtag Eric Garner. I am sorry because more names.
I just want to say thank you, Dr. Karen, for telling me, Shalon, you're going to do it, and Dr. Handler saying, yeah, Shalon, you're going to do it. And, I really appreciate all of you wonderful, nasty women for being on this panel with me. This has been a really great experience. Haven't done it yet, but it's already awesome. So this first poem that I'm going to read is by Barbara Cooker, and it's called Women. It's tough being a woman, feeling your object to be bought, an elusive query, something to be chased and caught, when you know you're more than that. So pour me a draft, Charlie, give me something dark and frothy. Wars have been fought for less. I came in wondering, what's a girl got to do to give herself notice? I mean, I'm so hot, I can let me out. I won't call you. I have a karaoke slot at 9 p.m. I'm thinking of Madonna, Medley would do, buy some water under this dam. I want to be a player, not a mascot. I want something bathed in dark chocolate with a nougat center. I want a lobster in my steamer pot. Champagne on ice and 2 chairs by a wrought iron table on a terrace in France. Whoever saw the Fountain of Youth can forget it. The lies the movies taught, they're a crock, a foolish dream, a vicious plot. Life isn't fair. You've got to play your cards no matter what. I could have been dean of women, a cover girl, an exotic go-go dancer at a bar, or married a guy with a yacht. But I'm not. So pour me another shot of Jack. Oh, great sight. So this next poem is actually by a poet that I've actually heard read in person, and she was really, really great and really, really awesome. And she actually, I was like, oh, okay, I want to dip my toes in the poetry pool a little bit. So this next one is by